thank you for joining us in episode 6 of Back to the Roots. I'm host producer Eric Fisher. Joining me I'm not sure how it's going to portray on YouTube, but joining on the bottom half of my screen, Coach Dahl. Justin, how you doing today?
Man, I'm great. I feel left out without these glasses on, man. I wish I would have knew in the pre-production show what the heck was going on. Otherwise, I would have brought some down.
I had no idea either. I just saw Eric put his on. I'm like, shit, I need shades too, man. I feel left out. Crap.
I was prepared. And that voice you just heard, joining us, the 9th head coach of Green Bay Phoenix men's basketball. It's always going to be Sonny Wicks. Coach, thank you so much for joining us here on our Back to the Roots show.
I appreciate you guys, man. I always say it's always sunny, man. Like metaphorically, it's probably always sunny, but literally it's probably not always sunny in Green Bay, which I'm starting to find out it's kind of snowy right now up here in the frozen north.
I do want to ask, because we had talked last week, just since you've gotten hired. Initially, we were talking about having you last week, but then with travel plans and moving, I'm sure that's been a whirlwind. Were you in Green Bay over the weekend for the 16 inches of snow?
I was not. Thankfully, I was not. But what's funny is I flew into Wyoming, right? Because my family's back there, so I had to go back, shore some things up. I don't like loose ends. I flew into Wyoming. The minute I land, I'm driving up I-25 out of Denver, and it just starts snowing. And I'm like, I can't get away from this. So whether it was here or there, I was in a snowstorm regardless. So I'm destined for cold weather jobs. It's fine. That's my makeup. Like, I don't even like warm places, to be honest with you. I'd rather just be in the cold. So that's who I am.
Yeah.
So that was going to be my first thing I wanted to ask you about, because so many, coaches, whether it be the Packers or, any Wisconsin coach or sports personality, are not used to cold weather. And you're coming from, you've had jobs in Colorado, you've had jobs in Wyoming.
Aberdeen, South Dakota.
Yeah, South Dakota. So it sounds like not much of an adjustment for you.
Look, I always say there's only one place that I haven't lived that's colder than all the other places I've lived, which is International Falls. All right. So if I get a job up in International Falls at some point in my career, I'm just destined to that's where hell actually freezes over, is up there in International Falls. So that would be the last stop for me. And it'll probably literally be the last stop for me because we'll all die of freezing up there. So Green Bay, I love it. I love it. Like, cold weather is my jam. All right. We grew up in Wyoming where the wind would blow, we'd whip around, we'd get these blizzards, and my dad taught us how to make little igloos and snow forts. The type of stuff that you do when you're raised in cold weather, like nobody gets. Like, just go make a nice insulated snow fort. You'll be fine. It's like actually really hot in there when you get inside.
Yeah, and that leads me to my next point here. And I do apologize, Justin. I will let you ask a question, but I got to do some.
Let him go.
Some work here.
Just keep cooking, Eric. Keep cooking.
So, Coach Wicks, for those that don't know, so our listenership is pretty Northeast Wisconsin based. Kind of a crucial point that we had to discuss in our pre-production meeting. I am a native. Justin is currently living in Gillette, Wisconsin. You are from Gillette, Wyoming.
That's right.
Very different pronunciations. I just wanted to hammer that in right away as well.
Extra E.
The extra E really changes the game, right?
It does. It absolutely does.
Gillette. And so, like, what you were enlightening me on was the pies up there, right? I guess there's high level banana cream pies in a town of 1,300 that come down for the farmer's market. So I gotta get on this. But what's weird is there's Gillette, Wisconsin. There's Wyoming, Michigan. There's like a Wyoming, Michigan. And so I'm kind of stuck in between this weird gray area, which like it's Gillette, Wyoming. We're the razor city, but yet we have nothing to do with razors. Zero razor production in Gillette. So
really,
I don't know why that's the nickname. These are things that make you go, right? Like, that's kind of where we're going with this.
All right, Justin.
So there's a perfect segue because we're talking a little bit about your hometown, but I want you to tell us and our fans a little bit about who Sundance Wicks is. And a little bit about who you are outside of basketball, who you are as a father, who you are as a husband, because I could tie into that as a coach myself, and what that does and how that person ties into who you are as a coach on the other side of that.
I think sometimes you can see there's personalities, right? Like, there's a coach and there's a coach personality, but then there's the family man personality, which I don't know if it's weird, if it's good, if it's bad about me, is I'm just kind of the same guy all the damn time. So my energy levels are always high. My wife, it drives her nuts because my kids, they kind of get a little like in the morning, instead of like waking up and having a bubba, and kind of, they're just up and they're just going. And it's like, let's go.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, just chill out. Chill out. It's like 6:30 a.m. We don't need to be doing this right now. And so I don't know. I was gifted with the gratuitous amounts of energy. And I've always just kind of been that hypomanic kind of high strung dude that's kind of bouncing around all the time. I love people. I get energy from people. Some people get drained from being around people. Like my wife, she's an introvert, right? So the more people she's around, like you just see the gas tank just start going right here. Like, pretty soon, I got to pull the ripcord and eject, and we got to get out of here because it'll crash land pretty fast. But for me, like if the energy's right and the vibe's right, we can do this all night long. And I don't know what it is. I love it. I love interactions. I love connections. So that's kind of me on the court too. And practices are always like have to have fast paced practices. I don't like slowing it down. We'll teach on the tape. So when we do practice, we'll film it and then we'll teach in the tape afterwards because we got to go. I don't want to have guys in the gym for 3 hours. You just can't. The way we want to play and what we want to do, it's high intensity, violent effort, kind of a hive mentality. And we want that to be an hour and a half to 2 hours max, shut it down. And then we can always amp that up again next day. But the days of 3 hour practices and long, arduous, drawing them out, just talk. It just doesn't work for me. So who I am, like that's who I am as a family man. I'm always going to be Daddy Disneyland. Dad, that when I'm fun dad, right? When I'm around. Obviously we're away from families right now, but I'm Daddy Disneyland, so it's going to be a fun time. And it's hard, you got to be present with your kids. I think it's important. And this profession, your phone will always ring. And it's, especially now these first 30, 60, 90 days, sometimes it's a blessing to be away from them. So I'm not like neglecting them, so to speak. If my phone's always ringing, I got to answer this. I got to recruit. We got to fill a roster. I'd feel bad if my kids were actually around me and I was just sitting here staring at my phone. I want to give them the time when I'm around them. I want to be intentional about that. So I love my kids, man. But outside of that, things I love, who Sundance Wicks is, I'm a big old fashioned guy. So I'm going to make my own old fashions. I like the big cubes, right? I like the big balls of ice. I don't like a bunch of chunked ice in there. I got to make sure it's clean. I will muddle 2 brown sugar cubes up in there, put a little cherry in there, muddle that as well. Get a nice little spice, simple syrup to go on top of it. Get a bib and tucker, a nice bib and tucker, or maybe even if I'm gonna go high level, go Blanton's on them sometimes because it's real smooth. And just that's an old Longmire type thing, when you walk into the Longmire bar in Wyoming. But I just really love just bourbon and basketball, man. A good old fashioned while I'm sitting there watching some basketball. You can't go wrong with that.
Coach Wicks, if you weren't my favorite guy in the room already, you are now. I'm a huge guy. So, just before we get into the basketball, the X's and O's and everything that kind of comes with that, did want to kind of talk about the off court Sonny Wicks, and one kind of fun thing I had heard in today's press conference, and also one kind of fun thing when you had gotten hired, I had seen a video about who Sonny Wicks is. The first thing that drew me to you, Star Wars fan and wrestling analogies. So I had to ask about that. And if you could tell our fans about that.
Yeah. We grew up 14 miles outside of town in Gillette. So we were on a dirt road. I was telling people in the press conference today, you had to learn how to make shots when you grow up on a dirt road, because that ball doesn't go through the net and just bounce down. It goes through the net and it hits a rock and it bounces 14 feet the other way. So when your brother or sister are rebounding for you, make sure the ball goes through right to their hands, because if that thing flies off a different direction, you're going to get a lot of cardio in. So it was a blessing to be able to live out there and become a good shooter just by, my dad. It's funny because the first guy to teach you how to shoot, my dad was a football player. So he tells you got to shoot through the window like Larry Bird, and I'm like, that doesn't quite mechanically make sense if this is the window. And Larry shot like Larry. I mean, everybody has a different stroke, but it's not kind of the systematic stroke. You're trying to keep it tight, it's like Larry. So I'll never forget that. I was like, you almost screwed my shot up for about half of my life just trying to tell me to shoot through the window. I don't listen to football players when it comes to basketball, right? So all we had one channel, NBC, growing up, and bunny ears, rabbit ears on the TV. But we had a bunch of VHS tapes, but they were dubbed over, so it was really kind of janky here. You're telling you a little bit about my upbringing right now. Kind of got a little below middle class. But we had VHS tapes, and we had The Empire Strikes Back. We had Star Wars, right? New Hope, and Return of the Jedi. Those we had the trilogy, and that's what we had on VHS. And just watch them over and over and over again. And so like that was how I grew up. I grew up watching the original Star Wars trilogy, and those are kind of the things where it was a boring Saturday night, there wasn't anything on TV, we're just going to pop in a Star Wars show. And that's where I'm fascinated with it, enamored by it. But that was my love for just understanding and learning about the Force at a young age. You don't quite know what it does. It kind of imprints on you, right? Like you realize that there's light and dark, and then you're going to church and there's heaven and hell, there's good and bad, right? It's all these things that are such dichotomies in this life. They're just split down the middle, and you understand the yin and the yang, right? All these balances that we talk about. You got to have one. You can't have one without the other. And you're sitting there going, there's got to be something to this, right? Like there's got to be something more to this. George Lucas has to understand like what he's doing. It's no different if you watch Neo in the Matrix and you watch the whole battle in the Matrix. It's kind of a spiritual thing as well. Or you watch Lord of the Rings and you just start to see like all these parallels that are drawn. Like there's always these messages that are being sent to us. So I became fascinated with it. And then there was a power in a name. So obviously my dad and mom naming me Sundance, which is a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down sometime. But you get teased a lot growing up and you don't realize the power of a name. But what about Skywalker? Like, what if you grew up and your name was Skywalker? You know, like that would be kind of wild. And I was always intrigued and kind of almost dumbfounded why no parents that grew up in that era named their kids like Leia or Han. I'm not saying name your kid Yoda or Chewie, but you know, there's names like Luke was a pretty common name, but nobody ever went towards Skywalker. Or nobody like, why? And so when we found out we were going to have our boy, I told my wife, I said, we're going to name our son Skywalker. And I was waiting for like a book to be thrown at me or something, you know, like, you know, just splash of water in the face, like, wake up, you're in a dream, you know. And she looked at me and she goes, I love it. I was like, oh, you are the one. I mean, you are the one. Like the force is strong with my wife. So let's be honest. Like she got the first name. She got Grace. I always say by the grace of God, that was why we had a daughter. And I was 36 when I met my wife. So who knows, man? I was like, I got really lucky to have 2 kids later on in life with Grace and Skywalker. But Star Wars has always stuck with me. And so to me, like it's one of those journeys that I've always kind of been on, and I've always wanted to name my son Skywalker, and got the chance to do it. And so now Sundance at Skywalker, man, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Justin,
what was the second part of your question?
It was about wrestling too, because I know one of your press conferences, I can't remember which one, but
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair, yes, sir.
Some grown men out there, right? We got to beat him. Yeah, whoa, Ric Flair. But I had an assistant and when I went to school at Northern State in Aberdeen. His name was Brad Christensen, and BC. I love him, man. BC was one of those guys who he dove into the wrestling scene, and he would always come in. He'd flare chop you, you know. He'd start spouting lines, and he's just one of those classic assistants where you're like, I love this guy, and unassuming young man too, unassuming fella too. Old Brad was. Like he's like Benjamin Buttons. He never aged. I never understood like how this guy could look the same their life, and I am at 26 and going bald, you know, like it's not fair sometimes. But this guy's like just out here flare chopping you and reciting stuff from what happened on last night's Raw. And that's why when I was in that press conference, I just said I kind of have these little, as you can probably tell, like these rabbit holes and kind of blackout moments where I just kind of go crazy and just spin around in circles, but then get back to the point. And so BC he was just ringing in my brain, man, when they asked me a question about the type of league that was going to be playing in, the type of guys that play in that league. And I just thought, man, there's a lot of dudes. There's a lot of good dudes out there, man. And it's hard to beat grown men. So you got to get grown, right? Mm-hmm. That's those wrestlers, man. They're old on that circuit.
All right, go ahead, Justin.
So I was just wanting to hear how you've done getting acclimated to the area here in your short time.
Coach, I'm telling you, I just was asking Eric for some hacks before you were on here. I said, give me some hacks, Eric. And so he pops in, you know, Fish is in here, and he's talking about the Redwood Inn, and he's talking about Friday night fish fries. that I'm gonna have to wait an
Okay.
hour and a half. I'm gonna have to wait an hour and a half for to get some food. I'm not that patient.
No, Coach. You're Coach Wicks now. You're GB men's basketball coach. You have like a little pass that says I get to go to the front of the line. You know,
I
I
do.
don't want to be that guy, but you kind of do. You know, you
I
have a
think
little star power now.
I'd rather go there with you guys and then like you guys be the guys who get to the front of the line. I'm just here with these guys.
Well,
I'm just
we're big enough to be your bodyguards to go there.
Like I told him, I said to him when he's asking me about restaurants, I said, we like to eat here. We like to
Yes.
eat, and we like,
Yes.
we're a city, a state of drinking too. So by all means, we like to have a good time, and
Old fashions.
old
Yep.
fashions.
Old fashions are a high level thing in our area.
Really,
So,
I did not know that coming into this. So this is intriguing even more. I'll
yeah.
say that he also mentioned the curd burger at the distillery, and I was like, okay, this is cheese curds on a burger, correct?
Correct.
And you got to enlighten me on this cheese curd phenomenon that's going around here. Like the deep fried or the fried cheese curds aren't real cheese curds, correct? It's like
yes and no.
Yeah. Okay. So
there's fried cheese curds, which you can get at, you get them at Culver's, you can get them at, whatever.
Yeah.
County fairs, whatever. It's deep fried cheese. So
Yep.
those are considered cheese curds. But the kind of core of them is that, true cheddar cheese, and it's fresh off the line, and they squeak.
Yes. Okay. There we go. So this is what I'm talking about. Like this is stuff I got to get into right here. Like I don't even know what that is. Fresh off the line, and they squeak. Like I don't even know how you just what did you just describe? That sounds like a mouse.
It's not too far off. That's accurate.
So they're like
you're gonna go to a cheese store. There's plenty of cheese stores in our area around here. You just go in there. There's a little bag of cheese curds. You just go in there, you buy them, and you won't stop munching on them because
it's fascinating.
Yep.
That's fascinating.
There's a big love of Quick Trip.
Yep.
In this area or in Wisconsin as a whole. Quick Trip has fresh ones, so Quick Trip, go get yourself a bag of cheese curds. And if a little quick hack on those, if they're not as fresh per se, if they're maybe a day or two old and they're kind of losing that squeak, you microwave them for 10-15 seconds and you get the squeak back.
So my wife's from Minnesota. She's from New Ulm, Minnesota. And we were driving up here from Milwaukee when we flew in. You had to get a minivan. So this is let me just tell you how this goes. I'm flying to Milwaukee. I'm like, I'm about to be the new head coach in Wisconsin Green Bay. Let's go. Like, all right, get my rental car. And they're like, sorry, sir, we're out of cars for the day, but we can give you a minivan. And I was like, okay. Well, now we're really like the stature's really pumping up right now, right? Like just really coming into town. Like I'm not getting a Tahoe or like a black Suburban, like like real cool.
Right.
Driving in a minivan, just a Honda Odyssey or whatever we're in, just kind of just dadding it all the way up 43. And we're passing some Quick Trips, and my wife just starts losing it. She's like, "Oh my God, Quick Trips! This is so exciting!" I'm like, "That's a gas station, babe." And she's like, "No, it's an experience. Quick Trips are an experience." And I'm like, I don't know. You're out of left field on this one. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I was a graveyard. So what part of my jobs and one of my jobs in high school was I was a graveyard shift manager for the Come and Go gas station. Yeah. I mean, alliteration aside, I'll take my chances. Okay. So the point being like Come and Go gas in Gillette, Wyoming, when the coal miners shifts are getting off is a little weird space. It was not an experience to work in a gas station. So the Quick Trip is another fascinating thing for me because now my wife is all excited about being around Quick Trips again. You're telling me they got high-level cheese curds. This is something I'm going to probably have to embark on here in the next 24 hours.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. Okay. This is good.
So staying with the, just kind of acclimating to Green Bay, as is right now, Green Bay very much kind of the winning tradition with the Packers. What has that been, kind of embracing that winning attitude? I mean, really, we are so blessed here in Wisconsin to have the smallest pro sports markets, but some of the winningest. We got the Bucks. We've got, the Brewers have been good for the last 5 years or so. The Packers, just for my entire lifetime, have been winners. So what is that, the challenge of building that winning culture, bringing that back to the Green Bay Phoenix?
Well, I think, what I love is going down to the Wisconsin State high school basketball tournament and just seeing the care factor for like how much people are just, they love it. Right. And you can go, I've recruited a lot of state tournaments, and you go watch, and some are just pretty boring and there's no real love or no real juice, no real excitement, but it's like the whole town's hanging on to what's going to happen, if De Pere's going to win it or not and go undefeated. It to me, like just that level of commitment and pride that everybody has. That's what happens in small markets when you have that type of relentless following, that loyal following, whether you're the Bucks or whether you're the Brewers, whether you're the Packers. It's like you're going to build the army, right? It's going to happen. And the right kids around the region and the right players around the region, they want to be part of kind of those small market teams where they're big deals. I mean, let's be honest. Like you want to be a big fish in a small pond, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of what it is. And that's Wisconsin in general in a lot of different pockets. And we can do that here at Green Bay. It's been done before. I mean, what I love is just today at the press conference or being around the city is how many former players actually still live in this area, right? How they came to Green Bay, played for the Phoenix, got plugged into the community, and started their lives here, and are continuing to give back and cycle that through to the next generation of student athletes and players for the Phoenix. And it's just like that's why I love communities. That's why I love these little small market niches, man, because that's important. It's important to everybody. And so we're Northeastern Wisconsin's only Division I program, but like that needs to be a little bit more of like a flagship. Like here we are. Let's put this flag in the ground and understand. What the heck? Someone just called me right now. Yeah, let's put this flag in the ground and understand like this is our home, man. Let's be proud about this, and let's do what we need to do here, because we don't need to go to a big market. We don't need to have a big market to go have success. And this league is great, the Horizon League, and just get another tangent here, but it's like you're going to cities like Indianapolis where there's the Pacers, right? You're going to Cleveland where there's the Cavaliers. You're going to Detroit where there's the Pistons. It's like you're going to Milwaukee where there's the Bucks. It's an NBA market everywhere else. We can go get in the big market. Let's stay in the small market and let's make some waves.
Yeah. That's great. I just want you to touch base a little bit about what it meant to you today to be introduced as a D1 head coach.
I could sit here and gas you all I want to, man. I was, these things are just surreal. Just last night I was up till I don't know, trying to create what you're going to say and all these things, write these things down and all this stuff. You just kind of get lost in it, and it's 1 a.m. in the morning, and I'm sitting here like looking at this. I'm like, I'm actually about to go step up on a podium and be announced as a Division I head basketball coach. And you just have these blink moments where you go back to shooting in your driveway in 426 Forest Road in Gillette, Wyoming, with no cement, and sitting there saying like, where did you develop the love for the game? And then you fast forward to playing for the Gillette Bulls in 5th grade. And I remember hitting a half-court shot at Meadowbrook Elementary School in Rapid City, South Dakota. And Monty Wilkins, who's one of my best friend's dads, like hugged me at half court when I hit this shot like we won the national championship. And then you fast forward a couple more years, and I remember playing for Jim Henshaw at Twin Spruce Junior High. And we win the first, conference championship in Twin Spruce in a long time because the rivals across town, Sage Valley, were always winning it. And then you fast forward and you go win 2 state championships in high school playing for Mike Curry. And like just all these moments, I'm getting goosebumps talking about all these moments that happen in your life to like, how did I become a coach? Why? Well, it's the love that's instilled in you from great leaders, from great coaches, from great teachers. And it's my college coach, Don Meyer, just telling me, Sonny, you're not going to be a very good professional basketball player, so you might as well be a coach. I'm like, this is a dude who believed in me, right? Like when I was playing for him, but now all of a sudden I'm going to go be a professional basketball player, and he tells me I suck. So I'm like, what? This is a weird, twisted way about going about this, man.
Yeah.
And but like your coaches, your teachers, the people that are around, they see things in you that you can't see in yourself. That's why we do this. My job is to sit here and I got to look at a young man and say like, I see this in you. I believe that you can do this, and you don't even know it yet. But I know that you are capable of so much more. And to be able to sit on this stage and to have that pulpit and to know like what's going to happen and transpire here over the next, half a decade, whatever it is, I know how important that is, one to me, but for my journey, but for other kids' journeys and for other, players' journeys. There's going to be a lot of guys that play for us that go on to do things that are going to be meaningful and impactful. And it was it was just a blink moment to get up there today, take that picture with my wife and hold up the number 9 for the 9th head coach, which is kind of like my spiritual power number because I was born on August 9th. My parents' wedding anniversary is August 9th. My first daughter was born on April 9th. It's a number that's always resonated with me for whatever reason. And it's there are no coincidences. So I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I know that. And Green Bay is right where it's supposed to be. And now we just start to wake this sleeping giant, man.
Man, I had chills now too. I did want to kind of touch base at a couple of things. I guess I've so many tangents. I'm the same way. I'm tangent. You can ask my fiance, Secretary Shauna, who comes on our show. Just tangent after tangent, and then 30 minutes later, oh, by the way, this is what I was getting. So I did want to touch on one thing that you had mentioned in your press conference today, and just kind of elaborating is that you mentioned that you believe one of the most genuine human beings I've ever met. I've known you for half hour. That Green Bay was the best job in the country. Yeah. And if you want to kind of elaborate on that, what that means to be the Phoenix coach, I mean, and some of the stuff you said in the press conference, I don't want to, if you want to check out the press conference, it's on YouTube. The show's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Hit pause, go check it out, or listen to the rest of this, and then go check it out, or whatever you gotta do. But just kind of some of the things that you talked about in that press conference today really resonated with me. One of those being this is the best job, and somebody, I have my loyal ties to the program, and I'm an alum, worked for Athletic, etc. And then also just tying in the past to the future.
Yeah.
You could kind of, and that's very much what a Phoenix is. It's you rise from the ashes.
Every 500 years.
Like that too. So if you could just kind of elaborate on what that means to you and kind of that symbolism for you as well.
And I think, probably people don't really understand when you sit up there and you go like, this is the best job in the country. And it's twofold, right? To me, it's the best job in the country because essentially right now, if someone were to look at a list of jobs that are available for every opening that was going to happen, we're like 361st out of 363 teams, right? So there's a big mountain to climb there. People are like, that's not a very good job to take. Why would you take that job? It's a perfect job to take. I mean, it's like when PJ Fleck did his interview at Minnesota. I'm sorry, Wisconsin people, but like it was the same type of thing where you sit there and go, why wouldn't I take this job? Like, why wouldn't I run into this opportunity? Because this is the greatest opportunity for growth in the United States of America and all of NCAA Division I basketball. It's the greatest job for growth, period. And so like that to me is inspiring because that's where you can level up, man. We're not sitting here talking about you're going from Duke to North Carolina, and you're saying, oh, okay, what's the difference? Like you're talking about going from here all the way up here. And that's the job you want. All right. And then, but it's the job, it's a job that certain people are built for and certain people aren't. And you got to have a requisite, you have to have a requisite energy level and enthusiasm for life. You can't get discouraged easily. To me, it's the best job in the country. It may not be for somebody else, but for me, absolutely. And I want people to see that from my point of view because I believe it. All right. And I'm not like, oh, this is just some hyperbole over here. He's just talking some crap, outside of his mouth. Like it's not hyperbole. Look at where you can go from here. Like look at what you can do with this job. And it's just, to me, that's where the inspirational side of the story will continue to unfold as the journey progresses. You can't script it any other way. And I know what's also inspiring in this part, Fish, is like the kids that commit, the people that come in here to decide to play for the Phoenix, they're believers. They're believers. They're builders. They're visionaries, right? And they saw the same thing I saw. 3 wins, 361. They saw the same thing and they said, yes. Tell me that shit doesn't move the needle. Tell me. And you're crazy if you don't believe that. So anybody that commits to Green Bay from this day, moving forward, you better believe they're believers. You better understand that those dudes want change. They're about it. Because there ain't anything sunshine and gumballs about pitching this right now. It's a hard job to pitch. It's a hard place to pitch for kids to come to play, but it's actually not. I'm speaking in double negative sometimes, right? But like you look at it and you go, all right, so here's what it is. There's opportunity. There's a chance for impact. I want the dudes who want to be those guys. And when they say yes, it's not because we lied to them and told them it was something that wasn't. They were literally ready for the build. They were ready for the climb. And that's that to me, like that's why it's the best job in the country.
Yeah. That kind of leads me into my next question for you, Coach. You'd mentioned earlier about talking or going down to the state championship games and seeing the state level of talent. Just touch base on how you felt about that and the type of players that you would like to recruit um, to UWGB, and how easy is it going to be, or what is going to be the selling pitch for UWGB? Is it facilities that matter? Is it the opportunity that's really going to matter? Or are there other factors that can really matter for you?
Yeah, I think there's a combination here of a lot of things. Being the fact that, what we do, we always want to recruit local, then you want to recruit regional, right? You want some regional warriors, you want local legends. That's what I got to look at this, man. Like, if there was, I would have loved to have been a local legend in Wyoming, right? Like being from Wyoming, go to University of Wyoming, never got that chance. But so I was a regional warrior for Northern State University in Aberdeen, South Dakota. Played there 4 years. It was phenomenal, man. My dad took his shirt off on senior night after having triple bypass heart surgery. Probably scared the crap out of a lot of people there. It's just like one of those things you remember. You're like, Dad, you just had triple bypass heart surgery, man. So the scar's still fresh. Don't take your shirt off. So it kind of tells you like how I was raised.
Where the energy comes from.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, no question. But the local legends side of it is you sit there and you go, there is a piece to this puzzle that's been missing here for a little bit, which is getting the local players that are around here, right down the road. You can 40 minutes away, 45 minutes away, right down the road, and they can come here and they can be impactful. They can win championships. They can go play in the NCAA tournament. And then they can, if they really love Wisconsin, like a lot of people I know do, they can stay here for the rest of their lives and have a hell of a life. I mean, and live, quote unquote, the Wisconsin American dream. And like I think there's a lot to that. And so from the recruiting piece, for me, it's you do have to get the right local kids, the ones, like I said, that want to be here, that want to be a part of this. The sad part of the reality nowadays is that some kids may look at this program, and they may look at any program in the country, and they go, well, if I don't get the offers I want, I'll just go to this place over here. I'll go get stats for a year or two, and then I'll put myself in the portal, and then I'll go, better myself or chase the bag or do whatever. And I get it. There's a hustle to everybody, right? But it's just that's not what lasts. How many kids nowadays that hit the portal and have been one place, two places, three places, they don't have a home. You don't get to come back. Once you go, you're gone. You play your freshman, sophomore year here, nobody's putting you in the Hall of Fame when you go play 2 years somewhere else. Even if you were the best player in the history of the program, your first 2 years, you leave the last 2 years, you're not coming back. It's just, I don't, probably time will tell, but I'm just saying there's probably not a lot of places where like, you didn't get your degree from here, you didn't graduate from here, you left us halfway through, you're not coming back in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what happens now? So what happens to Hall of Fames? Are we basing this all on just a guy played for a year? Just guy came for a year and was really good? Like there's no sustainability and no substance to that. It doesn't last. And so these kids don't have homes anymore. They go and they live in different spots and they're nomads, but that's life right now. So we have to identify fits. Hear me talk about it all the time. Fits, kids that fit what we're trying to do. And honestly, I'd like to take the kid on the back half of his career, the last 2 to 3 years, and come here and stay here versus the kid on the front half who gets freshman of the year and decides to dip out somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'd like to have that kid that stays for 3 years because that's going to mean more to this community. It's going to mean where we're at up here in Northeastern Wisconsin, that loyalty and commitment level. And so we're going to look for guys that have high feel, just the way players I like to coach. High feel kids. I like intelligence. I like smart kids. I like toughness. And then I like for you to have a skill, a weapon. So you could be skilled and be very well-rounded, or just have a weapon. You're a sniper. You're a JYD motor 4 that can go get 15 rebounds. You're a double 5. You're a pick and pop 5 torch. You're a trigger 4 who can hit the trailer 3. You're a go guard that can score 3 levels. You're a Brady Rogers type point guard where you can manipulate the game and move it around, right? Like there's different weaponry out there, but I'm going to make sure that each guy's going to have a specialty. Everybody on our roster is going to do something really, really well. So if you deep dive it here in a couple of years, you start looking at the roster, like, wonder what that guy's weapon is. They got to have a weapon. Not just going to have players, just guys, just people out there. You know, it's what do you do well? I want you to be great at what you're good at, not good at what you're bad at. And so for us, like to me, that's kind of the requisite the tangible skills things I'm looking for. Outside of that, one, got to have great juice. Obviously, I can't coach, you know, low energy guys. That would be really weird. Like if you came into a practice and saw freaking Eeyore, you know, you'd be like, what the hell is this guy doing here? Can't be low energy guys. Got to have juice. You can't be moody. Don't like moody people. Like people that show up the same way every day. I don't care if you show up just like straight as an arrow every single day and you're just steel like a train track, you know, going forward. But I want you to be the same guy every single day. And so I don't like moody. So we got to have great juice. You can't be moody, right? And you got to love to compete because I'm a competitor. Love competing. I got to have guys that like, you know what? You may not be the greatest drill guy in the world. That's fine. But when the lights go on and the whistles start blowing and the shoes start squeaking, you just get something else about you. And like, to me, like that's the competitor in you. Like you're going to dial it up. Like I can't go half speed. Like you've obviously known that, right? You see that. So I can't, like, I don't understand people like, coach, I just can't, I'm not feeling it today. Like, what? We're playing basketball. We're going to play basketball, dude. Like this, you can't feel that right now. Like there's a lot tougher things going on in the world than this. So that's kind of the, you know, you guys can help me out. You guys go see some players. Let me know and let me know if they fit that mold.
Yeah.
Justin's your guy for that. Speaking of, you know, if we're talking X's and O's here, Green Bay has seen two polar opposite styles of basketball in the last 5 years. We've had Link Darner, where it was playing the fastest pace in the country, most possessions in a 40-minute game. Then we went to Will Ryan's system of the swing offense and probably the lowest amount of possessions in the country. So with that in mind for the Green Bay basketball fans, what is the Sonny Wicks style of basketball? Is it somewhere in the middle, or is it the high intensity kind of more, you know, I don't want to put you in a box with Coach Darner, Coach Ryan, but what is Coach Wicks style basketball?
That was a great question. The first way I answer that, and I always answer it the same way, is a style of play is dictated by the players you have. Right. So I've never been cookie cutter in that approach. It's like, oh, well, let's just run. We're going to run flex. This is called flex. We're going to run flex because this is what we do. And no matter who we get, you're going to run flex. And you're going to run it like Novocaine, right? And you're just going to until you get numb. It's just not who we are. If we have a roster of guys who are more equipped to play with some freedom in the open floor, like then we want to get out and go a little bit more. Understanding the value of a possession, though, I think is important, right? So I think that's where all this, you can have concepts, right? I teach a lot of conceptual basketball, a lot of spacing, respacing, manipulating spacing. So we want to teach guys how to play in concepts. Actions are actions, sets are sets, movement's movement, right? But it's got to be purposeful to me. You got to understand more so, like former boss I worked for, Jeff Linder, was great. He was really good for my offensive acumen. And he's right on it. Chuck Daly said this a long time ago, spacing is offense and offense is spacing, right? So what good coaches can teach is they can teach their players how to space, right? Set up in this alignment. Let's run a side ball screen corner fill. There's a guy in the corner. We're going to be at the 45. There's going to be a guy at this wing, and there's going to be a guy at that corner, and we're spaced out, right? That's spacing. Great coaches can teach respacing. So now when we come off the ball screen, our 5-man rolls to the rim, our corner fill shakes the sideline or snaps up the sideline. We move the nail on the opposite side. We flatten the defense. We smash down or smash up. We flatten it out. And so now we've respaced in the action. And then elite coaches can manipulate spacing. So now we can decide. Or a longer closeout. And now we're talking about manipulating spacing, right? And so to me, conceptually is important on how our guys understand and learn how to play out of simple concepts. What happens when you drive the baseline? All right, you know, you have a drift spot. If it's a 2-man side, you have a drift and you have a diagonal pass. So you can either hit the drift or the diagonal, and you're going to have someone pulling behind. If it's a 3-man side, you get the drift. They're going to have a LeBron cut at the 45, and then we're going to space, and we still got a diagonal. So, like, they're just simple things that happen when you drive beat outside to the baseline. I'm talking here in some conceptual stuff, but to me, like, that's where the type of players you have dictate the style of play, let's say we have two guards, and I love to play with two really good go guards that can go score, and they're really up and down. They can play at 3 levels. Love their pace. We're going to open it up a little bit more because now we're going to have a lot more freedom because we're going to have a lot of gravity. We're going to have two guards that pull defense towards them. So because we have gravity from our guards, now we can create advantages from that gravity. And I think this is where we talk about, and if you want to ask me to define my style of play in just a couple sentences or a phrase, it would really be concept-driven basketball, all right, creating and seeking advantages. So what we want to do is we're not going to sit and be like the NBA where they just manipulate matchups and set one screen and put the bad defender on them all the time. And it's not going to be any movement. It's going to be isolation basketball. It's not what I'm talking about. It's, all right, we have a guard who's really good. We know that the defense is going to blitz him to try to get the ball out of his hands. But we also have a 5-man who's really good in the short roll because he's got good feel. So we're going to get 2 on the ball in the blitz, short roll the 5. We're going to play 4-on-3 downhill, and now we're going to play concept-driven basketball. Right? Like, that's, to me, how you create an advantage and manipulate defenses. So you see those things, okay? We can run some false motion. You'll see a lot of teams run false motion and stuff like that. But what does false motion do? I mean, is it purposeful? Like, that's why I look at it, like things like, it's great. It looks cool. Did we do anything? Sometimes a simple action is understanding that you have your best player in a ball screen at the 45 with strong spacing on the opposite side, which is dunker, spot, and break. So now there's no nail help, and you have a corner fill, and you're basically just playing 2-on-2 in the middle of the floor with your 2 best basketball players. And you're just looking at, is the advantage created, and can we keep the advantage? Can we play high-level basketball through closeouts? When we attack closeouts, if we drive the H seam or the V seam, the H seam is a horizontal seam and the V seam is a vertical seam. When we drive these seams, how are we respacing? And then can we continue to keep those guys chasing and playing an advantage basketball? And I think like that's the simplest form of basketball. It's complex to teach, but the simplest form of basketball is the basketball we learn when we're playing on the playground.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to do it in the closeout. You attack the closeout. You shot fake, jab, attack the closeout. You create a rotation. You keep the ball ahead of the rotation and play out of it. And like we can't sit here and just tell our guys like, here's what you're going to do every single time. We want you to learn how to play, and that's why you want better basketball players in March, not better plays. And that's why you teach them how to play out of concepts, because eventually you're going to get to a point where you're going to play a really damn good team, and maybe you're a really damn good team, and it's a stalemate. I mean, you're just right here, and it's players making plays, learning how to play out of certain advantages, and hoping that you can keep an advantage more than the other team can keep an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be, advantage basketball. Sundance Wicks, what's your style of play? It's advantage basketball, creating advantages, keeping advantages, using advantages. And then conceptually teaching your guys how to play in space, right, with great pace. That's why you got to have good feel guys on our team.
That was awesome. as a coach, that was awesome. Awesome. So, I guess we'll step away from the X's and O's or the style of basketball. I've noticed in the Google lookup of Sundance Wicks, which
Google me.
You're on Wikipedia, which is awesome.
That's weird. Is it Wikipedia or is it Wikipedia?
Should be Wikipedia at this point. I'm convinced Wikipedia.
Sundance Wikipedia.
So in that, I learned that your brother is an assistant or was an assistant coach for Damon Stoudemire.
Yep.
And you coached with him. Was it at San Francisco?
Correct. Yes.
So that leads me to my question of where are you at with assistant coaches, and how far down the rabbit hole, in your words, are you in that realm?
That's good. I would have loved to have my brother on staff. He's a smarter man than all of us, though. He's out of the coaching profession, probably making about $200,000 a year. A lot more than a lot of other people make in his life. And his wife is highly successful too. She runs an HR outsourcing firm in Sacramento. So they get to live right now, where they get to go live in wine country and do things. I would love to coach my brother again, though. It was one of the best years of my life was in San Francisco. And what they say, I think it was John Wayne said the coldest winter I ever had was a summer in San Francisco. Literally doesn't make any sense. I don't know why that's a quote, but I'm always reminded of that when I think of San Francisco. But to your question here what was the question?
Where are you
Oh,
at?
staff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was talking about brother. Yeah, rabbit hole. See, you get. It's like my 19th thing I've done today. Staff's really close to complete. It'll be probably announced here in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Oh wow.
So I'd love to give you the break on it right now, but just from
No.
HR stuff. So, what I love about my staff is that it's a staff of grinders, of guys who've came up from lower levels and done it at high levels, who have won championships, either as players, national championships, or championships as coaches, Elite Eights, Final Fours, guys that have done it, right, and have been around it at all levels, Division II, NAIA, Division I, and so like for me, it's really I said in the interview today, you hire the person, not the position. I think so many people look at someone and say, oh, that guy's a really good coach, and that'll look really good on this or that'll look good, or that'll look good. And really, is that person have the right makeup for this? Because this is like I said, this is a grinder job. Do your own paperwork, do your own travel. You don't get a lot of the extra that you get at the higher levels. We're not flying private. We don't got Husker One, from Nebraska, where we can just take that and go recruiting and hop on the private plane. Book your own travel, pay it with your own credit card, those things. So you got to have guys who understand what that is and are okay with it. And then they got to be able to connect well with players. They got to have great relationships. I want a guy, a track record of people who I really like that guy. Not like, I'm not so sure. Like, no, I like that guy. I talk to that dude. I mess with that dude. I hear from that dude. Yeah, that guy's always around. The best ability you can have as an assistant coach is to be available. So the best ability is availability. I think that's the same way with players too. Like John Stockton was the most durable point guard to ever play the game. I think he missed a handful of games his entire career. We want available human beings because this is available 24/7, like 7-Eleven type job. And so the best ability is availability. They're consistent. They're everyday dudes. They show up. They work. They love to be in the office. They love to be around, right? Like that's part of this is like, I'm just around. I want to be in the community. I'm going to be at the gym. I'm going to be around. So many coaches love to do their job here, go home, shut it down. Nobody ever sees them or hears from them. They're like, it's like watching a mythical unicorn come out in daylight. It's just not who we are. So when you see these guys, you'll look at them and you can deep dive them and just be like, yeah, that guy's been really solid in this place. Or that guy's been around here. That guy's won championships there. That guy's done this. And two of them have really good ties. One being actually born in Green Bay, and the other one has really good ties to Wisconsin, who's from Wisconsin, played in Wisconsin. And then the other one is been in the Horizon League and been around this region, or Illinois based his entire life. And so to me, like there's a regionalization to this job. You don't need to be out here like getting guys from California or wherever, like saying, hey, this Texas guy, I need a Texas guy up here. Like they're right here in your backyard.
Just to second touch on that, you talked about when you were recruiting your players that they had to have a very specific skill that they were great at. Do you tie that in with your assistant coaches also?
Yeah, great question.
Marrying the X's and O's with the availability to what you have?
No question. I'm not trying to hire myself, right? I think that's one of the rules that you lose is you don't necessarily hire all your friends. You don't want to do that. And you don't want to hire yourself. I still want a little bit of like, I want to be on edge a little bit too, right? You hire some people, you get real comfortable with them, and next thing you know, comfort breeds complacency. That's not what we want here. We want to stay sharp, want to stay on edge. So one of the guys I hired is an elite defensive mind, who's come up from a good defensive upbringing, which is like a lot of the Green Bay way is you're going to have to play a disciplined, demanding style of defense here if you want to win. All right, no rebounds, no rings, baby. Got it? And so we know like we got to have a good defensive guy. The other guy I've hired is basically been running offense for his program for the last 5 years, and has always had a top 15, efficient offense in the country. So that's a mind pick. And the wild card outlier idea guy that's still new and fresh and has a lot of those things like special situations and creativity and kind of the new blood that comes in and is like, what about this? Like I love those guys. Like, what about this? What about this? Because they provide sparks in meetings where you're sitting here and you're kind of systematic and hardlining some of the ways that you've come up and brought up, and it's hard to, change sometimes. And all of a sudden, the young guy comes in and is like, "What about this? You see this?" what if we did this and applied it to that? And you're going, oh my God, like I actually love that. So you got to have some fresh ideas, right? Now, obviously they have specializations there, but that's not, I don't want them just to be that guy. So we're always going to have staff meetings that are dynamic, that are collaborative. I love just free talk, right? If obviously talking to you guys, you understand, like I'm not one of those guys who's, you can only speak here and you can only, that's not who I am. I think the best conversations happen organically. They're very fruitful. And then we can solve problems because you can talk freely and not have to worry about what am I saying or how should I present this? Just let's speak. Let's speak. And the discernment will come as we go through this process. So I love that. I love just, like I said, we're always in offices. We're always sitting around each other. It's not like knock on the door, schedule a meeting type crap. It's not who we are. We got to get things done quick, fast, in a hurry. So the most effective way to communicate is to over communicate. So that's going to kind of be our staff dynamic, which is cool. Glad you asked that question. They'll also be responsible they'll have position groups, and we'll try to rotate position groups. So not one guy just gets dialed into like you're a big guy coach and you're a guard coach or you're a wing coach or whatever. I want them to get well-rounded, right? And I always say, like, my job as a head coach is I want to get you hired. I don't want to get you fired. And so right away, I say, I want growth for you. So if this spot ends up becoming stagnant for you and it's not about growth and you feel like you can't go anywhere else, you can't grow anywhere, then we got to help you. Got to help you find a new spot. Got to help you find a new job. Want them all to be head coaches because I want to hire guys who want to be head coaches at some point. And so let's mentor and grow through this process as well. Every journey's different, right? And so for me, I can't sit here and tell you that you're going to get there like I got there. You couldn't even make this crap up, right? They can write a book about the crap that I've been through. And sit there and be like, how the hell, where did this happen? But you're still fortunate and grateful nonetheless. And so I think we just always look at things a little bit more in the idea of how can we help each other grow and move forward. That synergistic collaboration on a staff can really pay dividends down the line.
So one thing, and it's, kind of switching gears again. One thing I know as again, former student, somebody who served on student government, worked for athletics, one thing that's always been kind of a challenge is connecting the students of the university to the community surrounding the university, which, can either get lost because you have to go to the Resch for a game and it's not on campus, or the community may not want to come out to campus because they're so used to going to the Resch, and vice versa. So kind of with that dynamic, I know one thing that's been kind of happening the last couple of years is playing at both buildings, and each has their pros and cons. But I guess the roundabout way of what I'm trying to ask is, how do you build that student involvement and that community involvement to get butts and seats at the Resch or the Crest?
Win. I mean, like, product helps, right? Like, style of play and product helps. I get that. Like, it's all fun right now. Everybody loves Sundance Wicks. We got to start winning some games. So, like, that's all part of it. I think if you put a good product on the floor, no matter where you're playing, Crest or Resch, you're going to show, and they're going to be supportive. But to that point, I've just never been I know this. Jesus went to the people. Okay, like he went to the people. He didn't like sit up there and be like, "Come to me, everybody, come to me." Like our guys, our program, we have to go to the people. We got to go in the community. We got to be out there. We got to be visible. And so they build connections to those guys. This is also part of why I would tell you, like, the type of players you got to recruit. Got to get kids who want to be connected to the community, who want to be part of the build, who want to be part of this process. Because the more they're entrenched, the more you're entrenched. The more they give, the more you give. It's symbiotic relationship here. This isn't like, two polarizing teams on one end and just sitting there having a standoff, right? Like, we're trying to work together with this. And so we have to put our guys out in positions in the community so that they see us and we're more visible. And that connection, like I said, creates synergy, creates collaboration, creates love, creates connection. Where we're doing this in a way that's benefiting everyone, no matter where we play.
And just following up with that too, I know you became acquainted with the team, or with the city and the buildings, I guess I should say, through the women's WNIT games.
Yep.
So just kind of, what was it like being on campus, and what was it like being at the Crest?
Underrated facilities. I mean, honestly, to be honest with you, like, I think they undersell these sometimes. Like, if you walk into the Crest, it's a really good facility, man. The replay board's high level. I mean, Daktronics, high level replay board. You're talking about a great college arena. where it's the perfect size for people to come in at 2,000, makes it seem full, but 4,000 you're rocking. I mean, that's about the perfect size for this, especially for the kids and the ratio of kids on campus. Basically student to try to athletic ratio. So, and the band is up there and they got their own little spot right there where it's that creates some juice and excitement. I was extremely encouraged by this. I also live by the motto too. I'm not a hard guy to please, right? Easy to please, hard to satisfy, I guess you'd say. Mm-hmm. And you can do less with, you can do more with less. Let's be honest. Like, we need what we need. We need a basketball. We need a gym, right? We need some weights, and you need to be able to go rehab, prehab. Outside of that, man, if you forgot your underwear, I'm sorry, you can't go play the game. It's just, you don't need a lot to be a successful basketball player, a successful program. So if we're sitting here saying we need to have a ton of stuff, like, we're just making excuses, to be honest with you. There's a lot of kids out there who want that opportunity. But I caveat this with, it is an arms race. There are things out there where glitz and glamours and all those things, the kids look at those things nowadays. They look at NIL packages, they look at facilities, and they weigh them a lot more than they used to. It used to just be back, coach, do you think I got a chance to play? Hell yeah. Let's go play at Green Bay then. That's what it used to be. And hopefully we can still get some of those kids that want to be about that.
Mm-hmm. So, Eric, I've just got two more questions for Coach Wicks here. I don't know how many you've got, but I'm gonna.
I've got one or two left, so I know the man's hungry, so we'll let him go here quick. We got a couple more yet.
I'm gonna put you a bit on the spot here, Coach. In the state of Wisconsin, one of the biggest arguments between the coaches and the WBCA, the Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association, is whether the schools or the WIA should implement a shot clock.
I knew where you're going. I knew right where you're going with it.
So I guess this is the time to kind of put your hard line in on where you think this should go for our state association.
Well, let me play a little politics here for you there, Coacher. All right. So the old politics side of this is, not everybody can afford the old shot clocks. Okay. I get the argument, right? But here's what I did notice when I went down the state tournament. This is a well-coached state. All right. When you play without a shot clock, what you're able to do is you're able to get guys to move the basketball. If you really want to have an advantage, right? It's get a lead and then keep that team chasing and make them do things they don't want to do, whether that's come out of the zone or whether that's press you a little bit more. There's a chess match that's being played out here by a lot of great coaches in the state. When I watched the state games, I was really, really impressed with the ball movement, style of play, and how kids were disciplined and unselfish enough to keep that ball ahead of, the defense, and know that there was going to be 45 1-minute possessions, minute 30, late game. You're going to hold the ball, probably do some Dean Smith, Carolina four corners. It's sure. Does that suck sometimes? Yeah, to watch it does, but there's an art to it too that's kind of beautiful. And so I do appreciate both sides. And I'll say this because an undisciplined shot clock state is terrible basketball. Meaning, like, they don't understand how to use a shot clock. Like, what's the point of a shot clock if we're just always going to play fast and take bad shots? Like, you don't need a shot clock for that anyways. It's going to be crappy basketball, right? But a team that understands how to manipulate the shot clock, where you can now press, take some time off the clock, have a team stall in the half court that maybe is a pretty good offensive team because you're manipulating a little bit. Like, to me, that's the chess match with the shot clock that I like to see. Like, how are you scheming the game a little bit more? And so once you get to that point, there's beauty in that too, teams that manipulate the shot clock from a certain perspective. But there's also beauty in the side of, if I could see that ball touch 5 teammates' hands in a possession and know that ball's binging around, moving around, and that defense is having a hard time catching up, and they're just slowly dripping the life out of you because of how well they move the ball and how fundamentally sound they are, because you coach and train and play to what's required, right? So if there's no shot clock, we don't need to worry about certain things. Clock, you're literally going to change the entire landscape of basketball in Wisconsin if the shot clock gets implemented. Coaches are going to change, styles are going to change, right? It's going to revert to a different way. So what happens when you implement the shot clock is about 5 years from now, everybody's going to be playing about the damn shot clock. Mm-hmm. They're going to be saying, basketball is crappy right now. I don't like how the shot clock speeds it up. Everybody takes bad shots. Kids just want to shoot late second shot clock buzzer beaters, when the shot clock's going off. And right now they're complaining that the style of play is too slow. Nobody, everybody touches the ball. No, we want more up and down. We want more up and down. So no matter what happens, coacher, there's going to be an argument. 5 years from now, they're going to be complaining about the damn shot clock. And right now we're complaining about not having a shot clock.
You're absolutely right.
All right, my last hard question. It's something that kind of got touched on in the press conference today, and just something I guess one thing that I know we've talked about on this show before and our podcast show as well is just like the interview process. I guess like if you could elaborate on that just a little bit. And I know it was a very community driven one where we had different members of business leaders and former alum. I know that you got to meet a guy I'm very familiar with, Cordero Barkley,
Yep.
among other names, and so many other different ways of going about this interview process. And for the fans, there is a kind of a pressure on success right now because of kind of turns that it's taken. So if you could just kind of elaborate on that interview process and if there was kind of pressure put on how intense this has to be for the university as well.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't think you go into a job wanting a job sitting there thinking like I'm going to fail or it's going to be, we're just going to have mediocre expectations. That's never anybody that sits in here and wants to win a job and wants to be the leader of a program. You better have a detailed, vision and a strategic plan about what you want to do and how you want to get it done. I'm not saying that everything always goes as planned, right? We understand that. But in this process, what I appreciated, I think I told him this today in the press conference, what I appreciate about everybody in this process was how driven and how demanding and how dialed in they were on certain questions and steering it. If a coach got in, I can get in sometimes as a mode. And I remember Kurt Voss, literally, like I was talking, I remember him stopping me halfway through my answer and literally just asking me a completely different question, just trying to send me another direction. And his methodology behind it was like, I just want to see if you're light on your feet. I want to see if you can think freely and quickly, because I know you're going to go down a certain direction with this question, but I want to switch you right now. And I thought it was brilliant. I sit there and I go, that's freaking genius, because that's coaching. It's broken rhythm, right? The basketball, we love to say we want to play in flow and we want these things to happen. But really what basketball is a game of broken rhythm. There's loose balls, there's incidental baskets, there's whistles being blown, there's things you can't control, the refs are being bad, the players are out of their heads, the ball's not bouncing the right way. It's just a ton of broken rhythm. So how can you coach and adapt on the fly if you're not used to having your rhythm broken? And to me, like that's this process was all these guys were such different and unique and diverse backgrounds, grilling you, sitting there saying like, okay, he needs to hit these 4 marks. Let's challenge him to see if he could actually get to that mark. And a lot of it so much isn't about like, well, can you do it on your own? Is like, all right, if we lead you a certain direction, we put you down here, can you get there? Can you figure it out? And it was a crazy process, to be honest. I loved it, but I love chaos and I love these things. And to me, this is the type, it was a perfect type of interview process for me, because I got to dive in to so many different avenues with so many different people. And it was really, really cool seeing them all there today. The search committee just knowing like, man, you guys made this hard. I mean, they made it hard. And I've been on other interviews where it wasn't hard. It was just, they asked questions and write your name. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And this one was like, no, what about this? Or no, what about this? What go in this direction? Tell me about that. Go here. Stop. Don't stop talking. Do this one. I'm going to ask you this question. Like, you're going, whoa. Let's go. Like, let's go. And that's to me what made this process unique, is I thought Josh had a really good vision for what he wanted. I thought the search committee executed the vision of trying to get the right, get the answers they were looking for from players or from coaches, to make sure like, okay, you fit or you don't fit. Because you can't go away wondering like, is that the right one or not? You got to go away knowing that was the right one in this process.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was done really, it was really, really well done on all sides.
So My last question, Coach, is I know it's been a long day, and I truly appreciate your time with
You
us.
guys are hot, man. You got me right after the press conference day. Like you got prime time right now. That's what you got.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the heck out of it, And so I want to get out of here and get you something to eat and get a good night's sleep. So I want you to sell some fans on what we can do to help bring Phoenix basketball back. How do we sell more tickets? How do we help Sonny Wicks put us back in the tournament?
Help us help you.
Oh man, this is Jerry Maguire stuff right now. Like, help me, help you. Show me the money. Yeah, it's real simple. There's a formula out here, right? And I talked about it. I said, how do we bring Phoenix basketball back? How do we rise, right? How do we rise? And to me, it's as simple as being part of the army of energy givers, right? Which I call foot soldiers, people that are active. They're out there daily. You guys are in the streets, right? We all have our day jobs. But at the end of the day, like what we try to do is, if you're positioned at this corner of the state, or you're positioned in this corner of the city, or if you're over here in De Pere and you're down here in Bellevue and you're up there in Howard, Swamico, right? And you see something, or you're around it, or you see me, or you see some of our players. Like it's simple as connection. Hey man, good to see you. Like our guys being out there is as simple as building the army of energy givers who want to give to this, and understanding that we're going to work as relentlessly as we can to make sure that we're out there doing our part. So all you got to do is show love. And like a lot of that nowadays is showing love on Twitter, show love on social media, like retweet things, quote tweet things, like drum up the interest, create the hype machine. I'm not afraid of that. Like I don't run from social media and all this stuff. I'll engage, I'll interact. Like everybody wants to sit up in their ivory tower. No, man, we're boots on the ground. So let's make it uncomfortable for everybody else who's going against us. That's what I want. I want people to start thinking, well, like, why aren't we doing more? Why aren't we out there? And I want the Green Bay faithful to sit there and be like, this is our state. This is our city. This is who we are. So let's rally this entire community and then really start putting the heat on everybody else. So that now when there's kids who maybe are in this region locally that are thinking about school, it's not like, should you go to Green Bay? It's you should go to Green Bay. Like you should go here. And that to me is what builds something that lasts, is that people that are rallying around all this stuff that we're doing and they're saying, man, look, it ain't try it before you buy it. It's sit there and believe in it. Believe in it. Go build it. Go be part of that. And then be the reason why. Blaze your own damn trail. Be the reason why Green Bay's rising again. Be the reason why the Phoenix are rising again. And to me, like that's how you guys can help me help everyone in this region, because it's not hard. It just takes intentionality, right? It takes effort. It takes a little bit of diligence to get out there in the community and sit there and say, you know what, no matter what happens, because you guys are loyal freaking fans, no matter what happens, we're going to be behind the Phoenix 100%. So let's rally some other troops. Man, I appreciate you guys having me tonight, man. This was fun. Like this, my wife left. I was lonely. I was sitting in my office, I'm making recruit calls, and I got to talk to you two knuckleheads. So this is a good night.
All right, well, that's a perfect spot to leave it there. I know you're hungry, but just real quick, how can people follow you? You said you're not afraid of social media. How can they follow you?
At Coach Sundance, man. Twitter, at Coach Sundance, Instagram. I'm still a little bit late on adding some of the people that have requested me on Instagram, but at Coach Sundance Twitter, at Coach Sundance Instagram. That's the easiest way. I don't know. Not Snapbook. I don't really do much of the Snap stuff. I don't know what that is. But like those are the two main, I think. And Twitter mostly for me is the interactive purposes. Yeah. That's where probably bad. I get my news on Twitter. Most of it's fake, but that's kind of where I live. So it's fun. It's fun out there, man. Just don't be a keyboard warrior, man. If you're going to be on social media, I always tell people, like, don't hide behind your keyboard with a fake name, and don't be, having a burner account. Just be who you say you are and speak the truth, right?
Authentic. Yep. Authentic. Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right, Coach Wicks, thank you so much for joining us this week. It was an absolute blast. I don't have words. That was awesome. Very excited to see the growth of this program as an alum and someone who covers the team on a day in, day out basis. Very excited. Thank you again for joining us on such a busy day. It's been awesome.
Eric, Coacher, thanks, brothers. Appreciate you guys. You're part of the Army now, man. You're part of the Army. So
yes,
just
sir.
know.
Yeah. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you, guys. You're getting called to action.
All right.
All right.
Congrats, Coach.
See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome stuff, Justin.
That was great. Unbelievable. Like, you talk about this guy, and all you hear a lot of is the energy and the energy and the energy, and it's long lasting. You could feel it in his answers, Eric. There, it's not a short, this is what we got to do. It's about intentionality. He's got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points on each answer, and they're all energy filled answers. I think this guy's going to really sell Green Bay in a positive direction. He's going to move the needle with our fans in the positive direction. One of the things that I think you and I are probably going to touch base on, a little bit either on or off camera here, is your question about the crash or the rest, or I'm sorry, the crest or the resh, and where the intentionality is with that.
Let's do it on camera. I'm all for it.
Okay.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I thought it was, it's something that we talked about in past episodes. Eric is the true fact of what he thinks that he can sell and win with here, um, and why that matters. And 2,000 people, it looks good, but 4,000 people makes it popping. And those types of selling attitudes, like, the Crest is a great event center. It's a great arena to showcase um, Phoenix basketball, and it's something that we've talked about. I don't know how you felt about it, Eric. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I know logistically it's probably going to continue to be split. I want to see this because I truly believe in Coach Wicks. I want to be I'm not just saying this for the show because we just had him on. I truly believe in Coach Wicks, and I want it to be as an alum, as somebody who covers the team, as somebody who with the radio. I want it to be where the crest isn't an option to play at. I want 10,000 people there every single game so that they can't play at the crest.
Yeah,
They have to play at
I
the
think that's well stated. I think that's well stated. I think the way you state that is the right way to state that.
So in terms of 2023, 2024 for this upcoming season, I think you have to play at both. I think, get the, get the high intensity, feel for the kids. Get them that D1 feeling, which they can get at both facilities for that matter too, but especially at the Resch. The Resch is something that most schools in the Horizon League don't have access to. They don't have a 10,000 seat arena. They don't have
Hmm.
that facility of a multi-sport venue. When you think about like Milwaukee's close to it, where they had Panther Arena, it's right next to Fiserv, but they don't play it in Fiserv. And I think that's a
Hmm.
huge selling point for both a player, for a coach, and for the community. Is this is supposed to be the D1 team? Let's fill that SOB up. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, there's no harm in having games at the Crest. I think there should be a game or a few games at the Crest as well. Showcase your
Yeah.
campus too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that's kind of a cop out
Other
answer,
than,
but until that 10,000 seat arena is to the brim, I think you can play at both.
yeah. I just thought it was an outstanding interview. I didn't think we were going to go that long, but that he was just so easy to talk to. It was awesome. It was awesome, Eric.
I couldn't agree more. I had high expectations from the press conferences and the different videos I've seen, but to get that, I feel that energy. Like I mean, I went to the gym already today, and I feel like I could go again. I'm ready to go. I got the
There
I
you
got the
go.
juice. So real quick, Justin, just as we wrap up, just to kind of put a few finishing touches on our coverage, we did have, as kind of mentioned, we didn't really have a closing on the division or on state basketball for the boys. 5 champions this year, as always. Why don't you kind of put a bow on the basketball season as we head towards spring sports?
Yeah, well, I think it's something that we could touch base on here in an episode or two, as the weather is not going to really permit us to really focus in on track and field, softball, and baseball. Um, but De Pere going undefeated, really playing outstanding all the way through. Looked like they're a team that could repeat. Pewaukee, outstanding again, and some of the other teams. It was a great talent level all the way through. Kind of the hometown team in Brilliant winning D3. I forgot who won D4. Eric, do you remember who won D4?
Was it the school? Was it the school that had the new record holder?
Oh, I think it was Luther.
Okay.
I think Luther beat the Kenosha St. Joe's. Yes, and then D5 was Newman Catholic, and so pretty much almost all of the favorites. Luther you could touch a little bit about Luther as their coach announced before the season started that this was going to be his last season, and to walk off as a state champion is something special. So you give him a shout out. Just great talent all the way around. I mean, it was really unbelievable. There's no, Brilliant has a D1 kid. Pewaukee has two D1 kids. De Pere has three D1 kids, and so there was a lot of talent that coach could have saw down there to really kind of pick from, and maybe some of that untapped talent that nobody's seen because they're kind of overshadowed by those D1 kids on that team. So maybe he saw something in that, and he's already tapped into his recruiting ties and picked a kid out of Chicago, and he's really moving the needle. So I was encouraged to hear that he went down to the state. That was going to be one of my questions, and he kind of answered it without me asking. So thanks, Coach.
All right, Justin. So with that, just any parting thoughts you have on the interview? Anything from the last couple of weeks that we haven't recorded on? What do you got for us?
No, I'm just excited to hear some of his assistant coaches, especially the one with some Green Bay ties. That really is the one that interests me. I don't know. Maybe it's a former staffer. Maybe it's not a former staffer. Uh, I thought his answer to the type of staff that he wants uh, really resonates with what a high school coach um, should have. Having done the varsity level, you need to hear the stuff that you don't want to hear sometimes. You, you you don't need your friends to be your assistant coaches. You need people that are going to tell you what you need to hear. So if that is something that as you go on to be a assistant coach or a varsity coach at any sport in any level, um, those are the type of people that you need to surround yourself with. And I thought that was a great answer by Coach. So
Yeah, absolutely. I can honestly say, I keep bringing up my ties to university. I have not been this excited about the basketball program easily since probably 2016 in that
yeah,
tournament run. And prior to that, probably Kiefer Sykes and those, that's all kind of the same era. But um, cannot wait for October.
yeah,
Genuinely very excited to see what this team is and
and
and how they grow for that matter too.
yeah, and roster and what the roster looks like. We didn't ask them about any of the kids that have decided to. I mean, you had the kid out of Nina, Max Klesman or Cal Klesman, that decided to uncommit. Um, and then you had Donovan Short, the kid out of Denmark, that decided to enter the transfer portal. There's the Meyer kid entered the transfer portal. So some of the roster consumption and what that's going to look like going forward. We didn't really touch base with how he talked about it a little bit about the type of kid that he's going to want to have. Like if you look at the four teams that are in the Final Four this year, it's very senior heavy laden, and so it sounds a lot like that's the type of team that he wants. He wants to have kids here and
He
to
wants to have a
love Green
program.
Bay. Yeah. So um, we didn't get to ask him, and hopefully we get to ask him some things down in the future. But I thought it was a great interview and left a lot on the table, which is great for us, so we can get him back on the show.
All right, Justin, that is episode 6. I think it's episode 6 of Back to the Roots. Might be episode 7. I should probably keep track better of that, but
You're all juiced up, Eric.
I am.
You're all juiced up. You can't remember.
All over the place. But for Coach Wicks, thank you again for joining us and being part of this episode. I'm Eric. That's Justin. We're out. See ya.
Peace.